Happy Friday, my friends. Pleasure to be here with you guys. I'm here today with Matt. I worked with him here before. You've seen him here before. And it's just another beautiful day. It's a sunny day out there. Granted, we're still all at home or the shelter-in-place situation. So here we are another day on the House Gracie online YouTube channel. And again, it's a pleasure to be here with you guys today. If you followed us on Monday, or if you saw our show on Monday, our class on Monday, you saw how when we went to the ground, we talked a little bit about Jiu-Jitsu for striking, focusing on guard position, mainly from the bottom right now. And that led into a triangle position. So today we're gonna kind of carry on from there. We're gonna start off here. I'm gonna demonstrate first what we did on Monday in terms of the ground technique. And then we'll kind of add in, season in some things, layer in some things off of that, okay? Because by no means is that the whole guard. That's just a slight portion out of all the connections and transitions we can do. So we're gonna go ahead and build on that today. And I have Matt here again, one of our students here. So he's gonna be working with me today, and we'll be happy to kind of share that with you guys here. So that being said, let's get started. I'm gonna start in the bottom guard position. That's what we were playing here. Okay, this is kind of where we were at. All right, and again, we were talking about Jiu-Jitsu for striking. Okay, so in that case, first thing that we gotta make sure is that we don't get that knockout punch, right? We don't get, dinged up too much. So we have our hands here in a defensive position, kind of protecting our jaw, protecting our face, okay? So that way, if he winds up to swing the punch, I block, okay? And I'm gonna go into that first stage of the guard here, controlling the head and looking for that overhook. Okay, so this is kind of where we started from here, controlling this position. Now, I have, what we talked about on Monday, I have this right arm trapped as of right now, in this situation. So, and he's on his knees, so he hasn't stood up yet. So he only has one free limb kind of to use freely, and now it's his left arm. So when he starts punching with the left arm, that's when we went into that block, okay, that kind of praying mantis overhook block on the tricep and using the shin bone. Okay, once we got that block now, okay, what we want to do is kind of get a little bit of an angle. So I got that block. Before I go into the angle, I'm going to go ahead and adjust to the wrist, okay? And then I can get a little bit of an angle and go into kind of this control that we were talking about on Monday. So it's a little bit of an open guard here. This is more Jiu-Jitsu kind of for striking, a guard for striking situation. So I have both of his arms occupied. He has no free hands to strike me with right now. He's a little trapped up. This left foot, you see it slid up. I brought it up on purpose. I'm bringing it up high behind his, right by his trap, between his ear and his shoulder over there on the far side. And the main reason why I'm bringing that up right now is because I'm not controlling his neck with my hands. If you notice, my arms are not controlling his neck, so instead of just being here, letting his neck ride free, I'm gonna go ahead and clamp this heel on his upper neck between his ear and his shoulder over there to then control his posture. So now if he tries to posture up, it gives me some time to bring my leg out and adjust into a triangle lock, okay? And from here we continued on. We popped our hips up, we dragged the arm across, brought the arm all the way across, and we looked for one more adjustment here on the finish. With a little spin, a nice lock, both hands on the head for that triangle finish, that tight triangle, okay? So that's kind of what we talked a lot about on Monday, and we're gonna carry on from that here now and kind of add in on that a little bit. So the beginning's gonna look the same, it's just gonna change a little bit. We're gonna talk more about the Omoplata version of the finish today, okay? So we start here, I'm blocking myself, he goes with a punch. Here, he goes to strike, we block, okay? Get a little bit of an angle here, controlling his wrist, okay? Now, I like triangle a lot, but we also have our Omoplata ready to go, okay? So if I feel any difficulties with this, with my triangle leg, my bottom leg in this case, coming out or clearing free in any which way, I'm gonna start thinking Omoplata, okay? So what that usually is gonna look like, a common situation that would happen from, is that they start to stuff my triangle leg. They'll usually clamp on, and they'll start putting a lot of weight on it right there. And we talked about that a little bit on Monday, on the previous lesson on Monday, so you can look back on that footage for those details there. So now from here, because I can't get my bottom leg free for the triangle, my top leg is completely free to go. And that's gonna come right in front of his face right here, and I make a hook under his chin with my ankle. If I can get that hook, that would be the optimal, the ideal situation. Won't always be the case, but that would be very nice, because now that prevents his front roll. He can no longer front roll. If I don't have this hook here, he can actually look away from me, Matt, and do a front shoulder roll over all the way, boom. And now I lost omoplata. I might be able to come up and take top position, but I lost omoplata there. So let's get back there. Goes for the strike, the block, goes the punch, we trap, find the wrist, okay, get a little bit of angle here. Now he's bearing my leg, so I bring the leg all the way in front, okay? If you have a hard time, let's say like you're right here or controlling his posture, and you have a hard time bringing the leg, once you're this far, you can take a moment, block his face, and then clear your leg over. And that'll help a lot. So I'm going to go into that detail again, now with the chin trap here, kind of like a chin strap under his chin with my ankle, because now if I have this, can you forward roll now? He cannot forward roll. It's very funny, but you can feel that at home with your partner over there, and you'll see it's very difficult to forward roll. So I buy some time right there. Now check it out. My right hand, I don't need to hold his wrist anymore. I'm going to go to the other wrist, forearm wrist area here. And my left hand is going to start hugging across the back. Meanwhile, my bottom leg starts posting, and I start going into that kind of north-south position where his head one direction, my head is the opposite direction. What are some things that we feel here? Well, a lot of times they like to posture. If they posture head up high, higher, Matt, I can maybe buy some time, kind of clamp on my legs and start kind of pinching on here, okay? The other thing that they like to do is forward roll. So what's gonna help prevent that forward roll is that hip control in this scenario. So I can hold his belt, okay, right down the center by the spine. Or if it's like a no-gi situation, I'll hug across the hip. My left hand will go far across the hip, hugging his hip there. And that should complicate his forward roll a little bit. So now in this situation, I'm going to cross my legs again here, kind of like a guard. Again, we talked about this a little bit on Monday. We introduced this a little bit on Monday, but we're going to get more detail here. When I cross my legs, it's very specific which one crosses. The leg that's weaving behind my opponent's shoulder is the leg that goes underneath the opposite. Again, not the other way around. So the leg that's weaving behind my opponent's shoulder here, that leg is the one that goes under my opposite leg. Okay, and I pinch my knees a lot, and I extend. So now I'm in a sitting position. This would be a good moment to where maybe if I don't have such a tight hip control, I could adjust and get that hip control now. Okay, my hand, I make sure that his wrist is deep in the pocket. I'll even do like a sit-up a little bit, like a crunch here, to make sure I can release that hand without worrying his hand releasing from the omoplata. So if I sit my way back here like I'm gonna do right now, his hand has an ability just to kind of stretch out and just kind of go to that side, which is already going to complicate my omoplata. So it's very important that I keep his wrist control, I sit up, and then I can start to modify my legs into that, what we call like a figure four position, or almost like I'm closing a triangle, but I actually don't need to lock my legs. So I can literally just fold one leg in, bring the other leg right over that foot, here, connecting this position, and in a basic finish, right hand can hold I call like a horse collar, like right behind their neck, grab that collar right there, and left hand can kind of just mold your hand onto their belt, and then you can just push yourself a little forward here, okay, and get a quick tap. We're actually gonna do it so we get a different angle so you guys can see where my hands are going on the finish there. Okay, so we'll start here. Okay, so I'm in this position. He's burying my leg. I block the face. I clear my leg over. Okay, again, if you can get that foot under his chin, please do so. That'll help a lot. That'll be nice for you. Okay, so now I start to get that north-south position. And right about here, I'll probably lose his chin a little bit. That's very natural. but I'm already in a good position to start going into that little lock here, trapping his arm. Again, what's keeping his arm from running away is a lot of knee pinch, and I'm using the muscles of my thighs, clamping them together, clamping my thighs together right on his elbow. So if he tries to pull his elbow, it's very hard. And now I can't just sit up, I extend my legs, and that'll help generate some momentum. And at that moment, I make a little adjustment here on his hip, base, angle, and we're here. Now this is where we're gonna rotate. So, Matt, keep your arm here in the mix. Let's just rotate. Sweet. Nice. So I didn't change the position. The position is still same, but this is gonna allow you guys to see the other side. So I just sat up. You notice a couple of things right now. One, I'm still hugging his hip so he can't finish the forward roll, even though sometimes in very high levels, they still might be able to finish the forward roll. If they continue to roll and they're very flexible, and they continue to roll here, go ahead, roll one more time over your shoulder. I'll let them go. And then I'll just take top position and look to finish in other ways from there. So I might not get the submission there, but I will get at least the sweep into a nice dominant position. Let's go right into Omoplata here. And a little bit, rotate, sweep, nice. Okay, so you guys see that sometimes if guys are very flexible and they're very aware of Omoplata and good shoulders, young, train a lot, they have that rolling power. And that can be hard to stop sometimes. Not that it's invincible, but it can be hard to stop sometimes. So if worst case happens and that's the case, let them roll, you take side control like we just did. Otherwise, I want to focus on a couple things right here. He's on his knees. You see he's on his knees here, his hips are off the ground. And that's a big thing I got to address. I choose to address when I'm thinking Omoplata. So even though I sat up over here, it looks like I get a good shoulder torque, but the fact that he's on his knees, he has much more ability to forward shoulder roll. So I hug the hip, okay? And I'm gonna do like a reverse hip escape a little bit. So I'm gonna send my foot out. So he's hiding right now. You can't see it on the screen right now, but when I send it out, you can see it out there. And I use like my heel, okay? Mainly my heel and my glute muscle to kind of pull my hips. And that just saw how it kind of just pulled him to the side. He's being cooperative right now, so it only took one turn, one time. But if it's like a resisting opponent, I might send my foot out again and do it again. So at this point, now that I got his hip on the mat, now is when I really look to get that finish. So what you're gonna do is then go to that horse collar like we talked about before. A good grip on the horse collar. You can put your hand on his belt line here, on his hip, on his belt line, making it hard for him to get back on his knees and get a quick tap here. So that's kind of, in a perfect world, that's how it would go in a kind of play-by-play breakdown. So let's see one time here, maybe without so much words, and we'll try to get one full rep here. Okay, so we're here. We're here sitting up. I go into that position. He's still on his knees. So again, this is my foot. Look, I send it out. And then I do that little reverse hip escape. I send my foot out and reverse hip escape. That might be a little tricky at first, but you keep practicing it. And if you guys have any questions on what to do about that, you can send it here on the live chat or the group or on the YouTube channel page. And we'll look at those questions and comments later on to get more detailed about that. And then we go for this. All right. Okay, my friends, so from Monday and today, we're seeing kind of control the head, lace the arm. Okay, we have our triangle, which is the go-to. Today, we're kind of going into that Omoplata situation. Okay, and that's a little bit of a backup plan. Okay, so we want to kind of have a very good foundation to have multiple attacks from a very similar position. That makes it hard to stop each one attack because he doesn't know which one out of the 3 or 4 attacks is going to come. Okay, so I want to kind of, since we just talked about the Omoplata, I want to add a little bit of that kind of variation. I was talking about the triangle, and I want to kind of add that in here. It's going to look very similar, but we're going to start here, same beginning. He goes for the punch, and we block. Now, and let's this jab. So everything we've been talking about so far has been to attack when he goes for the punch with the free arm, that left arm, to fill in the space there. Now some guys want to get their arm back. So as I have head control here, they're pulling very hard on this arm but sometimes it's hard to hold. Okay, it's sweaty, maybe I didn't get the full lace. In the process of going for the lace, they pull the arm out. So I immediately go praying mantis on this side, foot on the opposite mat, okay, to allow me to hip escape, bring my knee inside, and now I'm back in the same kind of threat as before with a slightly different entry. So now you see I'm not with the overhook, I actually got a head control on this one, okay? I'm still holding his tricep, kind of very similar, same grip as before. Okay, now I'm gonna go into that tricep, or I'm sorry, the wrist. So now I have kind of his neck and his wrist here, very similar, but there are slight differences. Previously, you were seeing an entry here. Okay, so now we have here, very similar. This is a good position. Again, if he's very posture oriented, I can kind of clamp up here, and this would be a good position to strike from. I can strike, go back to the wrist, strike, go back to the wrist, bring my leg out, and look to get that triangle. The reason why I want to show this is because I want you guys to understand that you can use triangles to both sides and just kind of taking what they give you. So in the first sequences, everything was based on the left side. So when the person gets on top here, his right arm is trapped, so everything was based off this left side punch. Some guys get this, before that right arm gets trapped all the way, they already want to pull that right arm out. So you have to have a mechanism already prepared to go in that instant. So we can still use a very similar triangle, practically the same triangle, with a slightly different entry into that triangle. So let's see that again one more time here. And I would like for you guys, especially our students, to be able to do all these little variations to either right or left side. Okay, because then it becomes that much more momentum. So we go here, he goes to the punch, boom. Now in the process of me trying to lace his arm, overhook the arm, he pulls it back already. So then I go into that kind of praying mantis block. I'm holding his head here. He might be trying to hit me very aggressive with his arm, so I'm blocking the arm, foot on the mat, hip escape, and we're right back in this little position. That's when I'm able to now, if you rotate a little bit more, that's when I'm now able to bring that shin back in to kind of block that arm. Okay, so I'm here, I'm gonna slide down to the wrist, okay, and we have our triangle sequence, boom, return, okay, or from here, maybe he's kind of still fighting a little bit. It's hard for him just to posture away. Matt, if you can try to pull your head back and like pull your weight back, it's very heavy, right? I'm hanging my whole body weight on that neck, very hard for him to disengage. And this is when I can season in a little elbow, come back, elbow, right to the bridge of their nose, cheekbone, eyebrow. These are areas that I would look to kind of hit. So nose, eyebrow, cheekbone, okay? You can also go over, but personally I like this little cutting variation here, right back. Now at this point, I elbowed him. That's a distractor, just to get his mind off the situation. Come back to the wrist, and now I hip escape away a little bit. It's still hard for him to pull this arm out. Even though I'm not overhooking it, I'm still using my hip behind his elbow, and I'm holding his head. So he cannot just pull his arm out for free. And now I keep his wrist away so he can't stop my leg from coming in. I shoot my hip in a position to get a nice lock. Okay? So one more time. I'll try not to use so many words on this one. Check it out. Get your shin bone here. Lock up what you can. If you can't get a full lock, just cross your legs. Pop your hips up. I still don't have a full triangle, but I got a triangle setup. So what I'm trying to say here is I don't have the full triangle, but I have a great position now to initiate a triangle. So I'll just cross my ankles here for sure. Pop my hips up, drag the arm across. And now I go for that final adjustment. So I grab the knee part of my shin bone, foot on the hip, glue to him, leg. The second leg comes around the world, lock up, we're on. So, be aware that I know a lot of this information seems very similar, but there are details that make it work to one side or to the other side. Or if you're going to want to use one of these triangles to your right, there are some details that you have to switch if you're going to then use that same triangle to your left, if that makes sense. So there's a coordination of details with right side or left side. That's very important. That won't just allow anything to work at any time. There's these details that if you look closely on these live videos, you'll see me repeating it. Everything's kind of very specific, okay? I know that in a fight there's friction and things change, but when we train, we want to have a very precise message wiring system with our body, so that way everything is very precise. It's not left to chance. It's very calculated, very precise, and you can think deeper down that line, down that rabbit hole. Like if I can think 3, 4, 5 moves ahead, everything's very calculated. I'll be very prepared for my opponents. So, Matt, you want to try some of these out? You want to kind of get a little rep? I'll walk you through it a little bit here. So Matt, again, is one of our white belts here. And this is kind of how we get people up and going a little bit, okay? If I'm the higher level practitioner, I should know how to place myself in positions that would make this move work, or to get someone else to pick up on the details and the tensions needed to make the move work. So I'm going to be cooperative with my opponent now. I'm going to kind of just set it up just like I was doing to him, or he was doing to me. I'm going to be a good partner for him. Okay, ready? I'm going to go here, go for the punch, block. First thing, look for that head control. So head control 1, and he's got the overhook already, very nice overhook on my right hand here, which is very nice. We're going to start off with the first setup from Monday, and that's going to start from here, from this punching position. Okay, very few people are just going to wait here. I mean, if they're tired, they might want to catch a little breath, but they're going to start trying to either get out or trying to inflict damage. So if he keeps his head tight here, it's hard for me to hit directly on his head, but I can kind of feel good about punching right here in this soft spot. So he's going to go ahead and do what we're practicing here. He's going to bring the shin bone, boom. And he's catching right behind my tricep. His shin bone is in the bend of my elbow. And there's already a kind of a grippy tension going on here. This is already grippy. It's hard for me just to pull out and away. Very nice. Now slide that hand to the wrist. Good. And try to get like a C-clamp grip around my wrist. Nice. So very, detailed grip around the wrist right there. And again, now that he has his shin bone driving into the bend of my elbow, and he's pulling my wrist into his shin bone, so to speak, it's hard for me to pull my arm back. Very bad spot for me to be, especially if I don't have any jiu-jitsu. Now, let's go ahead and let's get an angle. So I have the ability maybe to start posturing up here. So in this case, bring your left leg, your heel behind my shoulder ear. Yes. Now if I try and posture up, it got very heavy all of a sudden with one adjustment. Put that foot back on my hip. So it's about the right move at the right time. If I'm not posturing very aggressively, he doesn't need to do that. He could just hip escape in a moment, we'll do that. But if in this moment I start to explode up, he's gonna bring his heel there, and all of a sudden it's like running into a brick wall back there. That gives him a split second to bring this inside leg out and go for a triangle. So pull your leg in and reverse. Nice. Control my wrist here, champ, with the same side hand. C-clamp grip. Good. Good. Both hands on the head. Pull. Woo. Nice. Good white belt. Okay. Beautiful. So right now my concern isn't so much the speed. Okay, it's more about the order of details and the kind of precision about those details, understanding that throughout each part of the move he understands kind of what we're looking to do here. So we're going to start again. Make sure you always protect your face. Kind of keep your elbows in a little bit. Nice. He swings. Boom. Control my head at the get-go. Nice. Nice. He starts to punch. Good. Now, take a moment here. Hold my tricep like you just were. Let that foot go back on my hip. Stay kind of right here for a second. Okay? Now guys, we were talking about the headbutt on Monday. And why is it okay to switch from my head control, which would technically maybe allow me to headbutt him, and go to the tricep grip? Because a little while ago he was holding my head. No way the guy can headbutt from here. It's very hard if you have a very good active head control. But when you go to the tricep, if you don't have an important detail down, you're going to get headbutt from here. And again, this is not for like maybe sanctified MMA rules. This might be a more self-defense situation where the guy's here, he wants to hit you with something, his arms are occupied. They might just think, hey, well, maybe if I use my head, I can do a lot of damage. So what's gonna prevent the headbutt here is when he slides to my wrist, he's gonna drive that shin bone into that bend of the elbow again. And he kind of extended his body. You see how his core kind of extended at the hip, which was very nice. Because now I can't reach anymore. So there's a coordination there. If he lets his hip be very malleable, he's not extending the shin bone, I'm within range. If he starts to extend, boom, look at that distance. I can't pull this arm out. We already talked about that, but now I don't have the ability to headbutt him. And if I want to posture, that leg comes up behind my neck. Exactly. And now create a little bit of space, bring your leg in. Boom. Nice. Very nice. Okay, now I want you to, can you try that, the variation we talked about today on the right hand? Okay, so one thing I want to emphasize here that I haven't really emphasized till this point, because it's something that I do really naturally, but it's something that was definitely taught to me. My father obviously taught me a lot of this stuff, and then Hoff, also shows a lot of amazing stuff, but some of these things, obviously, it's like you don't just think of it, it was passed down. So one of the things that was passed down coming from this block is not just blocking. It's not just blocking, because if you just block, he can keep striking. The important thing is that when you block, you activate your legs, your hip flexors, your core, to bring him in with your legs at the same time. So that way, when he goes to punch and you bring him in and meet him, he tries to throw a second and third one, but because you brought him forward with your legs, he doesn't have the base anymore to throw that second and third punch. So that's something I haven't said actually until now, but it's something that we've been doing. And again, if he's just blocking here, I'll be able to stay. But when I go to punch, he brings me in a little bit, it gets very heavy, and that's how he's gonna get my posture to collapse. All right? So here we are, I go for the punch. Control my head here, please. Okay? So this is where everyone's beginning. Now, in this case, I'm very aggressive with my right arm. It might be a no-gi situation. I just kind of pull my arm out, and I want to go for the punch. Yes, and I'll put both feet on the hip. So keep my head, my neck, and now both feet on the hip. Try to get a little more on your side here. Nice. And this is now the position here. It's the same thing, just with a slight modification and done to the other side. It's good to be able to do triangles both to left and right again, because now it's much more accessible for yourself and much more harder to predict from me being on top. So here we are again. I can't really headbutt him because again, he's driving me with shin bone into the bend of my elbow, and we're in this situation. If I'm kind of maybe tired or I don't know where to go from here, he can take advantage, elbow me, let go of my wrist for a split second, elbow, boom, and go right back to the wrist. Okay? It's something, if you time it well, it's hard to read. Because if the guy's kind of trying to stay tight, elbow, if he tries to pull away, you're already holding the neck. So it's hard for him to pull away. So he's back, elbow, he pulls away, you're holding the neck. Now, elbow, even if he goes to swing here, triangle over my arm. Boom! You're right in the triangle. Now he's on the opposite side, so keep your guard closed, or at least your triangle. Get my arm across. Nice. Very nice. Very nice. Very nice. Fantastic. Fantastic. So this is something that needs a lot of practice. Something that needs a lot of repetition. You need to fine tune it. It's something that you just don't see it for 1 hour, and then after 1 hour of watching, think that you've definitely mastered this and fully incorporated this and embodied this. So this is something that me, myself, I've been doing for over 20 years. I'm 32 now, and I've been doing this since I was a little kid, so it's like long time. And I've always kind of been told that if you want to be a master something, you have to put in 10,000 reps or 10,000 hours. So you like a move, watch the details here, press pause, get a few sets, come back, watch again, make some adjustments. If you get all the details, awesome. Now you start feeling more confident about it. If you made some mistakes, come back, check out the tape again, look at some of the movements, some of the details, angles and whatnot, and see if you can make your triangle and your punch block in a little bit better. All right. Any questions so far? No? Okay. Well, I want to show kind of freestyling here. I want to show a little bit of how this can be used just in a gi competition scenario, where I'm going to use for the same principles. I'm going to do a little bit of some changes here, but again, this would be now for like sport, jiu-jitsu, no strikes, gi incorporated, and again, like I talked about on Monday, I said that like when you just do no gi, you have the base moves, the set number of moves. When you add a gi and you have all those moves, plus the variations of the gi, of the different ways you can hold the lapel. So this is a very fun one. Probably one of my like, one of my favorites actually. I like this a lot, so we'll get into it here. And it's going to be from the same guard. It's going to incorporate a lot of the same movements. Okay. So actually, can you scoot back a little bit more? So now it's not a striking situation. It's just sport jiu-jitsu. We're having fun in the academy. Okay. He's. I don't want to let him just posture freely. I'm always looking to kind of use my legs like we talked about a little moment ago, use the legs to kind of keep in balancing him. And what I'm looking for is to get his hands to like either go on the mat or in this case, my chest core. Okay, so when they start kind of putting the weight on me, like frame your hands, yes. Okay, I'm gonna bring my hand inside, I swim, and I go into an overhook here. Okay, again, this is like a sports situation, it's no strikes, so I'm not thinking about strikes here, but I'm gonna go here. I latch on, and this is gonna be kind of how I control his posture. Okay, let's rotate a little bit more this way now. Okay, here. If he's very ambitious with his head, what I mean is like looking up towards the sky, and like that will strengthen his posture a little bit, so then I might pull it down on his head and then go back to the lat. He starts looking up very ambitiously, I might pull him down at the head and then look at the lat. But I know if his head starts looking up, he usually starts getting some space. So I want to kind of keep him engaged here close. Now my right hand, I still have the same principle. I could go right into our triangle series that we just talked about Monday and now today. That's why it's so cool, because it's a very small difference, but it makes a huge difference in terms of the gi sport game. So now when I go here, I open up this lapel. Okay, and I put it in my hand here. And now what I want to do is I want to get a little bit of a hip escape so I can bring my leg up high. I have like now like a high guard. All right, and that allowed me to easily pass my lapel around my ankle there. So once I got this lapel around the ankle, the position isn't fully set, but it'll start getting fully set pretty much when I pretty much just block his arm and get my knee in position. So now the position is in. This is a position now where it's like I have him really locked up. I can pretty much, feel good about where I'm at and start taking my time to dial in for that finish. So right here, I kind of have the controlling point. It's like a joystick. I can pass the joystick to the right, or I can pass the joystick to the left. His posture ability is pretty much broken because I'm hanging onto the gi over his upper back. I'm not low on his back, I'm high, and I'm pulling this joystick as much as I can so there's no slack. So for him to pick me up, leverage base is practically impossible. So now that I got my grip in here, and I'm here, I pretty much have, this is the same, my friends, this was the same position from the strikes, okay, from the MMA kind of street, same position. The only difference is now I'm using the gi, boom. So I'm gonna find his wrist. He's probably gonna put the hand of posture down. If that happens, I have the wrist, I can bring my leg in. And sometimes if like I'm having a hard time bringing my leg in because my shin bone might be long, that probably just means that I'm too flat on my back. So I need to get on my side. And now my leg will come in and replace right back in that same sequence that we've been doing. So this grip with the lapel is pretty much one of the differences that I'll do to make it effective at brown and black belt levels. It's still the same triangles and omoplatas, but this grip will give a lot of higher levels also a big headache, because now they have to use power and strength to try to break a grip that's very efficient, and it's based on so much leverage here. Granted, I need a little bit of flexibility, but there's amazing leverage. And again, have a lot of fun with this one, a lot of enjoyment. It's all fundamental moves, but just a little modification here. So one more time. He has his hands on my chest. I swim. When you guys swim here, when in doubt, there's a saying like, when in doubt, we pray. So you guys go in like a praying position, okay, with your hands here. I pray, I swim to get his hands out of the way, I latch on. Okay, I'm gonna start getting a little angle here, and now I start opening up that lapel. Okay, it's hard for him to stop this process, I mean, because it's like, if he uses his hands to start stopping the process, it's hard for him to maintain posture. So he kind of has a decision to make. I can still come in to those previous triangles, or he's trying to get posture, and if he's trying to get posture, that's when I'm gonna get this lapel out and pass it around the leg. Okay, once I pass this around the leg, if I have my leg in here, what I'm looking to do to initiate the position is block here and here. Now the position is on. This is the position I'm looking for here. His arm cannot come in. His arm is isolated. That arm cannot come in anymore. Okay, I have it trapped up. And my knee's right inside here. If he hugs my leg, trap, go over. Okay? If he starts to bury my leg, head to the mat, block the face, I let my knee back in. Okay? I cannot do the omoplata if I keep this original grip, so I let my knee back in, and now I bring the foot over. And now you already have the lapel on the far side, so for hitting a roll, it becomes very difficult. And you can climb the lapel, shoot under the shoulder, you know, and start getting your finish here. If you're a beginner, you might have a hard time moving your hips forward, so I would just place your hand, again, like we talked about earlier, on his belt line here, and that'll help push your hip for the finish. Again, if you're like more new to the omoplata, all I'm looking for, okay, assuming that the position's tight, is just to get my knee to the mat. If my knee touches the mat and he doesn't tap, he's never gonna tap from the omoplata. So you'll see that before my knee even gets close to touching the mat, he's gonna tap. If I just do that, I just bring my weight forward, he's gonna tap. I very rarely, maybe like 1 out of 1,000, will allow me to even touch. There was a girl actually, a little girl in the kids class. She would never tap the arm bars in omoplatas. And she was young, she was like 10 years old, 11 years old. I felt hella bad trying to finish her in the omoplata, but other kids were trying to get to omoplata. They're like, coach, this isn't working. So I had to like get on this like 10-year-old girl, and I was like trying to finish. And she later told me she was double jointed. I would get her an arm bar, her arm would bend completely opposite direction. So that was one of the people I've met that wouldn't tap. So there is occasions, right, double jointed. I mean, what can you do? Go for the choke. My grandpa would always say, son, or you know, his favorite submission was the choke because everyone goes to sleep. All the tough guys go to sleep. So there's cases where people break their arms, keep fighting, right? Break their hand all the time. UFC, boom, Bellator, guy goes punches down the forehead, breaks his hand, still fights. A lot of times they still win, you know, but it happens, you know, so. But if you put him to sleep, that's it, it's over. How we doing, brother? Is that good? Good on the time? So, again, always a pleasure. Very fun to be here, especially during this time where we can't really get out much and we got to be at, you know, shelter in place. So, you know, we're doing our best to kind of respect the community and the people and, you know, try to follow these guidelines. But with that being said, you know, trying to find ways to stay active. So we're doing this for those people, for our students. Next week, I think we're going to start, for Health Gracie members, we're going to start incorporating Zoom. So for all Health Gracie Academy members, we'll start having a Zoom account, which is more interaction. Otherwise, keep following us on Health Gracie online YouTube channel. And we'd love to see you all Monday. Have a good weekend.